bleachers and participating. We know it's not as exciting as a basketball game or a wrestling match, but it's still important. So my name is Rob Hess, and I am with the consultant firm that's been working with the board and the district over the last several months to help you find your next leader. And tonight's forum will work like this. You'll hear from both candidates. Each candidate will have about 10 minutes to share who they are as a leader or something that they've prepared, and so you'll see that. And then we have some questions to ask them, and these questions have been submitted either through the survey that was given out earlier in the year, or some people sent them in, and then we're collecting questions now. So we'll go through as many of those questions as we can in the limited time, and then after about 15 minutes of Q&A from the candidate, we'll ask the same set to both candidates. Then you'll hear from Rob and then Melissa. And then after, at 5:30 to 6, it'll just be an informal time when both candidates will just be here in different parts of the gym, and you can go up and talk to them informally, individually. And if there's a question that you really wanted them to address that they weren't able to address during the forum, then you can ask them that at that time. We really hope that you'll participate in providing feedback about the candidates. So we do have this, if you're point your camera at this, and you know how you do that hopefully. And if you are not interested in doing the computer thing, you can just write a note on the back on what you thought of the candidates and turn that in. We'll collect all this and we'll provide all the information to the school board during their executive session. Okay, so hopefully you'll give us feedback on which candidate you think would be a great fit for your district. Okay, so as soon as give it a couple of minutes and we'll have our first one come in and get started. Okay, we're going to start now. And so this is our first candidate, Dr. Waite, and he is from Shoshone, Idaho, superintendent there. And he is here to do his presentation.
Is this working? Yes, it is.
So you can't come out in front of the speaker.
Oh, I can't?
You can come out a little bit, but don't stand.
Oh, I can't be amongst the people? Okay. Okay.
Otherwise it was going to start squealing. So.
Okay. Well, I'll stay over here, then I'll stay in my spot. Thank you for hosting me today. It's been a fun day to get to meet everybody here. There's lots of great people, and I like talking about education, so this has been a fun day. Rob asked me to talk a little bit about my leadership style, and an earlier discussion with the board asked me to kind of talk about what the first 100 days might look like. And so I'm kind of combining the two because I think the first 100 days kind of fits with what I'm hoping to try to accomplish as a leader. I would say briefly my leadership style is to put the most important things first. Focus on the right things. And the right things is what's best for kids in the community. And so I try to put the focus on that and try to get everybody on the same page with putting the kids first and asking what's best for the kids. It's one of the things that I've admired about, say, corporate boards. A lot of them, they're really good at putting the focus right on what it needs to focus on and not spending time on things that are distracting from the main mission. The second thing is big picture perspective. I like to, from my experience as a superintendent for a long time, it's easier to get agreement on the big picture items. Most people want what's best for their kids. They want what's best for the kids in the community. And so if you can get that big picture perspective and focus on that, it's easier to get agreement on that, and then you can work from there when you're on the areas of where you're in agreement. And then I think the third thing is to develop leadership amongst the whole organization, whether that be the students, the teachers, the administrators, the community. If you have leaders in an organization across all levels of that organization, you're probably a pretty good organization. So more specifically, it's not moving. Okay, there we go. So the first 100 days would be a window into my leadership ideas, which is the first thing that I would do is having transitioned from one school district to another. I've been superintendent in 2 school districts for the last 24 years. And so I transitioned once from one superintendent job into the other. And the thing I did first then, which I think worked out really well, was before in the spring and just meet with people individually, spend several days in the district, talking to people one-on-one, asking a few questions, but mostly just listening and learning about the school district. I think that's the most important thing that you do, is seek first to understand and then to be understood. I think that's the thing to do. And once that is done, then want to try to develop what I call process norms, which are normal ways that you would handle everyday situations. And if you can set up a process in place that gets everybody focused on that process and able to use that, people feel included. People want to know that if they have an issue or a concern, that there's a way and a process for that to get addressed. So that's how you build a positive culture. Confront the brutal facts is sort of a overarching idea that's important in leadership and in a school district. And some of you might be familiar with Admiral Stockdale. He was the highest ranking military officer that was captured in Vietnam and spent a lot of time in a prisoner of war camp. And he said this. He said, "This is a very important lesson. You must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end, which you can never afford to lose, with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they may be." And so that's sometimes called the Stockdale paradox, which is you have to be optimistic, but you also have to be willing to confront the brutal facts and talk about the facts of the situation as they are. So that's very important. I think Churchill in World War II had a whole division that was their job, was to report the brutal facts to him about how the war was going. And a new superintendent's going to come in, and you want to make some changes. I think that's always important, but you want to be respectful of the traditions of the organization. Every organization has traditions. Those are important, and I think you can be an agent for change while still respecting the traditions of the organization. I don't think you want to come in and say, we're going to change everything. This is no good. You want to be respectful of the organization and their traditions. And so that's an important part of leadership. The strategic norms I'm talking about are, again, ways that you would handle situations. And developing these processes and then following these processes will build faith amongst people. And there's sort of 3 strands that would be in a normal process of how you handle situations, which is through communication and collaboration, through working together, and through a continuous improvement mindset. I think those are the best way to develop a process that gets everybody involved. So almost every decision that a school district is faced with, or issue, or challenge, can, I think, better be handled by a group effort of everybody. People from all aspects of the school community. Parents, community members, staff, school board members, everybody be involved in communication and collaboration to solve that problem. I think get better solutions. I call it in my current district, we probably need a better name for it, spitballing. Just people sitting around talking about how we can deal with the reality that we have and how we can make it better. That is very important, and being honest with people, transparent. Working together. I think that's something that a tone that the superintendent can set, which is we're going to work together to solve issues and deal with challenges. And I say it's get people talking with each other, not at each other. And a lot of problems can be solved if people just sit down with, as it says here, eliminate pretense and fakeness and just talk about the issues and work through them. And then the final thing is the continuous improvement mindset, which is how you be respectful of the organization. It's the idea that can we do better? Are there things we can do better? It's not that tradition is wrong, we're going to completely change it. It's always discussion of how can we make it better. And that kind of sums up the first 100 days. I'm a very process-driven leader, which is if something happens, if somebody comes to you with a concern, you want to be able to say, we have a process for that. We have faith in the process. We're going to tweak it and make it better all the time, but we have these processes set up so that people feel like issues they have are addressed. And I think if you can have some early wins of building confidence in that process and setting precedent for how things are going to be solved, then you can, what I like to say, turn potential crises into opportunity for growth. As the superintendent, I've been superintendent through the tech bubble when that crashed and we had major financial issues in education, and then through the real estate bubble. And in both cases, I think because we had good processes in place, one of two things can happen when you have crisis. You can split everybody apart and have it be difficult to bring them back together. Or if you have good processes in place, you can emerge out of those crises. And financially, those are probably the two biggest crises of our time as far as financially. And I think we came out of the backside of that stronger than when we went in, and it became an opportunity for growth. So, ready for questions, I guess.
So our first question, Rob, is what metrics do you plan to improve for our district, and how will you measure success?
Oh, okay, I think you need multiple metrics to measure success, and it depends on the situation. For example, student achievement, I mean, we tend to measure that with test scores, which are important, but are they the end-all of student achievement? There's lots of ways students can achieve and have nothing to do with test scores. Anything that students are doing that is achievement-orientated would be a success. So in our current district, we like to measure the things that fit our goals, and I think every district has different goals. One goal is that we want students involved in things. So we measure that. 57% on average of students are involved in extra activities. So one thing that we measure is we want more than 57% involved in activities. And that's activities of all sorts. Graduation rate's important, at least in Idaho. I know each state does it differently. They measure graduation rates by if you enroll as a freshman and then you never enroll in another school district, then and you don't graduate, then you're considered, that's a negative on your graduation rate. And so That's difficult because some students will be enrolled for a week their freshman year and leave and never seen again. And so we try to use graduation rate as if they make it to their senior year, we want them to graduate. Another metric that we use is college classes. We want students to take college classes, but we want them to be ready and have that be something that they're prepared for. We don't want to just throw kids into a college class because that's a metric that we could arbitrarily say we want 80% of our kids taking college classes. Well, if they're not ready, then they're not ready, and that's a recipe for disaster. So we want 100% of our kids who qualify through our screening process, if they're ready, to take college classes. So those are just some examples of maybe outside the box of metrics that you can use to measure success. We have another one with, we want students to have an individualized education, which basically means we want 100% of our kids, and we try to measure this with, that have a plan if they need it. And some of our plans are as simple as a high school student that has trouble getting up in the morning and making it to class. So we have a plan that we have a teacher that calls them every morning and tries to wake them up and make sure that they're going to school. So that's an example of a plan. It doesn't have to be a big bureaucratic thing, but that's another metric that we use. So I think that's something that the community, again, collaboratively is going to have to discuss. What are the metrics that the Crook County School District wants to measure, and not just focus on the one state test scores.
Thank you. Okay, your next question is, what will you do to retain current staff and recruit new hires to grow our school district?
Okay, I've gone through lots of cycles as superintendent. When I first was superintendent and there was a teaching opening in the elementary school, no exaggeration, you'd have 100 applicants. And you could pick and choose the best. And I like to say that we have lots of insurance salesmen and people that work at Bi-Mart because they wanted to be teachers and they were good, but when there's 100 applicants, they weren't able to get a job and they went and did something else. And so things changed. And I think things are constantly changing. And so what I have found when I go to job fairs or when I try to recruit teachers is they want a meaningful input into their job. They want to be treated right. They want to feel that they have meaning in the work that they do. And so what I've found is very powerful is to look them in the eye and say, if you come to this school district, you're going to be treated right, you're going to be trained, you're going to be mentored, and you're going to have meaningful input into what you do as for a job. Statistics will, survey after survey in all professions will show that that's what most people want, consistently rank that higher than even pay. Pay is important. So you got to have the type of district where you can be honest with people and look them in the eye and say you're going to be treated right, you're going to get job-embedded professional development, and I think that's a powerful way to recruit and retain teachers.
Okay, your next question. How will you create stability and trust? What are the top 3 priorities in doing this?
Okay. I mean, trust is something that I guess if we're going to narrow it down to 3 things: transparency, being completely open and honest with people, and that is a good way to build trust. The process that we're talking about of involving people in major decisions and in committees, and all under the idea of we're going to work together. And so that'd probably be number 2. I'm not good with one-word answers. And then really is the third thing, if I had to say, would be follow through and be honest, follow through with what you say you're going to do, and trust the process. Get that process in place, and then follow through in that process and let people know that they're going to have involvement. I think you can lose trust by having people feel, I'd say for community members, which is what our forum is here tonight, where they feel like nothing was done. I talked to somebody about this and nothing was done. And so I think that can lose trust really quick. And so there has to be kind of an organizational policy that something will be done. There'll be a process in place where something will be done, even if it's just that they'll be listened to. But it just takes, as I said earlier, conversation, talking with people over and over, getting to know people, and that's how you build trust.
Okay, what experience do you have building teams?
Well, I like to think 24 years as superintendent has been a full process of getting the right team in place. And like I said, the processes that I talked about of collaboration and working together. And that's how you build a team. Is you say we're gonna do team decision making. If we have an issue or a problem, it's not going to be the superintendent sitting in their office coming up with an idea, or just the school board on their own coming up with an idea and dealing with that. I don't like to see anything that divides us, even if it's just a comment that people will make. Sometimes people will say, you'll be talking to them about an issue in the elementary school, and they'll say, that's above my pay grade, or that's not my clowns, not my rodeo, or whatever. I don't like to hear that. It's all of ours. And so if everything I do, I like to think is a team effort.
Okay, next question. If you have to choose, which are you most interested in? Parent approval, student experience, or staff satisfaction?
If I have to choose, all of the above. Results. I mean, I think that's what I care about. We want students to learn and reach their full capacity. And so I don't like things that would say that those three groups are against each other or something that we have to choose from. I'm sorry to take your question that way. But the bottom line is I think all of those groups want what's best for their kids. And so it's our job to develop processes where people don't feel like those are opposing viewpoints, because I don't think they are. I think that teachers and parents, they want what's best for their kids, and so I don't think I can make a choice.
All right, next question. The State Board of Education has suspended assessment of essential skills in high school through 27-28 as a graduation requirement. Your thoughts?
As I said earlier to the board, I'm agnostic to that, because I really think every community is the group that should decide what they want high school graduation to look like. And you might have to fit some things in through the basic requirements, but I've gone through that process twice to answer that exact question: what do we want our high school graduates to look like? And the first time we went through it, we went to the two major employers in town, and we had tours, and we talked to them about what they expected out of the graduates, and then we tried to come up with some ideas that would help them, help us certify that they could do those things. And in that process, it was the basics. They wanted three things. They wanted students to be able to do basic math computations, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, fractions, and positive and negative numbers. And they said that's important. If they know that, we can teach them the other math that's necessary for the job. They wanted students to be able to read a paragraph of directions, because that happens a lot in the workforce in these two places that were the major employers, and then be able to implement those directions. And then the third thing they wanted was students to be able to write a lot of reports. They kind of wanted a paragraph or two, students to be able to write a paragraph or two if they're graduated. We ultimately changed that to a 2-page essay. And so we put that into our graduation requirements, as that's the thing that when I sign the diploma that I'm certifying, is at least at one point in their life, they could get 100% on a test, which we developed of 20 questions that would add, subtract, multiply, and divide. It was called our 100% test. And so we did that because we wanted to, as a community, set our own graduation requirements there. And it was embedded into the curriculum. It wasn't an extra class or an extra credit. It was something that we wanted. The second time I went through that is in my current district, and most of the employers in town wanted a little bit different. They wanted students to have some experience, some life experiences of of work, but also of being involved with other people. And they thought that those skills were very important for the industries that are in the current town that I'm in. And so we ended up saying for our graduation, we want students to be able to, students need to have 40 hours of internship hours at the job working. And in preparation for that they needed to have 40 hours of school involvement, something. It could be playing one sport. That'll get you your 40 hours. If you go to a basketball game, that counts as an hour and a half or 2 hours. And 40 hours of community involvement. And so that could be community service, it could be helping out with a community event. And so that was important to our community, and our community decided those were some things that were important, so we put that into the graduation requirement. So what the state says one way or the other, I think the most important thing is the local community decides what a graduate of their community should be able to do.
Okay, so we're coming up to just, we're about 4 more minutes to go.
Okay.
So this question is about, tell us about your experience as a classroom teacher, how long you were a teacher for, and what level you taught, etc.
I was a teacher for about, and there's a 2-part answer, about 7 years as a classroom teacher. I taught in Hermiston was my first job, and then I taught in Pilot Rock, and I spent 5 years at Spray. And I'm certified in business, math, social studies, PE, and I've taught all of those at one point or another. Now, I mean, if I'm on a plane or something and somebody asks what I do, I usually tell them I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher. I think that's what I am. And so I still teach for the local community college. I teach a personal finance class, and I really enjoy doing that because I like helping people with that, and I think it's important. And I also teach some, I wouldn't say teach because it's a computer-based program where students that are not ready for college algebra go through a series of computer classes, but I facilitate that and then go to the computer lab 3 days a week for an hour and help students with that. So I'm a teacher to this day.
Okay, and the final question is, how do you handle conflict?
Well, again, I think I try to avoid having it be a conflict, okay? And so I always try to diagnose a situation. Again, I think it's important that any organization, but especially schools, have processes in place that if there's an issue, the fastest way, again, for it to become a conflict is for me to say, nothing we can do about that. I'm not gonna do anything about that. Or so I think that you have processes in place, and then you try to direct people to that process and try to tweak that process, make sure that it works for people. And sometimes people just want to be heard, and let people know that we have a process in place to deal with most anything that happens in school. So I think the key thing is up front, get processes in place that people have faith in, and that they helps them get traction on whatever situation they have.
Let's give Dr. Waite a big hand. He's he has put a lot of time and energy into this process, a lot of emotional energy. It's very difficult to been at it all day, and I know you've got a drive tonight. You got to get back to Boise and all that. But he will stay around till there's going to be a little meet and greet at 5:30, informal. If any you want to ask further questions of him, he'll be here at 5:30 right after Melissa. And thank you again very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, so once again, you can do feedback electronically, or if you want to, old school, if you want to write a note about any candidates that you want the board to review and consider later, you could, I've got index cards if you want to do that, and some pens. So feel free to communicate however you'd like to do that. give them a couple minutes, but you can just get ready.
Is this on here, or do I kind of stand over?
It's going to
Or is
be.
it going to be here?
Yeah, you're going to be. Oh, Kathy, if anyone wants to do feedback, if anyone wants to do feedback, you can pass those
Did
out.
you tell them that?
Yeah, I told them. Yeah.
And this is back, and this is forward. Okay.
We've got it muted now, but we'll unmute it for you.
Okay.
Okay.
And can I can grab it, you're saying, and I can stand like in front of that, or do I?
Yeah.
Where do you want me to
Just
stand?
not directly in front of one of the speakers because it'll feed back, but you could
Okay.
be
In this
up
area.
here. You could
Okay.
be looking here as a reference.
Okay, is it on here as well?
It will be on
Yeah.
here.
Okay, get up there. Okay.
And it'll be up there, and then you'll have about 10 minutes, and then
Okay.
I've got questions that we've collected from the audience, and I'll just ask them.
Oh, all right.
Take a breath.
Okay.
Okay, so this is Dr. Melissa Skinner, and she is from Odessa, Texas. And with no further ado, the stage is yours.
All right. Thank you guys for having me this afternoon. Again, my name is Melissa Skinner, and I appreciate your time today. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Just a little bit about who I am. So 28 years in education. I do have a PhD in curriculum and teaching. I really like to say that I'm an instructional leader. I have spent the majority of my time in education and curriculum instruction, supporting teachers, whether that's professional development, supervising principals, really helping to grow capacity and skill set of our principals and our teachers. So that's where I've really landed and leaned into that work for the majority of my career. But I just really say I'm a small town gal. I grew up in a little bitty town in East Texas. We didn't even have a red light, so I mean, very, very tiny. Lived on a ranch. The weekends I rodeoed, I barrel raced, and the afternoons after school, kicked the hay off the back of the truck. So really just led that kind of small town life. Very important to me is faith, my family, and of course being an educator. And we just really love Oregon. And so that was actually a picture I took a few years ago when we visited. We visit about 3 or 4 times a year. We love coming up here. And I've shown that picture several times, and they're like, is that like a postcard picture? I'm like, so I have to kind of tell them about my favorite places that I visit and travel and love to visit in Oregon. So that was taken pretty close to here. So this is my family, and family is everything to me. And this is my son, Carter, and he's 20, and he lives with us, and he goes to college. And this is my daughter, Brinkley. And the reason I share this, and this is always an emotional story, but it's really shaped who I am as a person. It's shaped who I am as a leader. My daughter passed away 5 years ago at 18 from a very rare and aggressive cancer. And so we always say that family is everything, but when things like this happen, it really makes you stop and makes you think. We need to really love the ones that we are really around, and every day is precious. And when I say it shaped me as a leader, I just feel like now I'm just much more compassionate. I'm empathetic. I listen better. When people say, hey, I need to go take a day off because my child's in that playoff game and they're a senior, I say, absolutely. You need to do that. That is your child. You send us your most precious gifts as well, and I want to love on them every single day, and that's important to me. And so anyway, my husband, Michael, or Mike, I call him, he's a principal. He's an educator, a longtime educator as well, and so he's been in the school business right alongside me. And we will be married for 30 years this summer. Time flies. So I have been a teacher, of course, an elementary teacher. That's my passion. I love teaching kids to read. I've been a reading recovery teacher, which is really intervention and really supporting students that need some extra support learning how to read. That's really where I've spent the bulk of my teaching career. I've been a campus administrator, assistant principal. I've been a principal. And lots of different roles as a different district administrator. I've been an executive director of leadership where I've supervised principals, a chief academic officer. Like I said, I've spent the majority of my career kind of in that realm of curriculum instruction. I've also been a deputy superintendent. I've also spent some time at the state level at the Texas Education Agency in the school improvement division, really working with schools that are in turnaround needs, schools that are low performing, that aren't really up to par with scores, and really people that need to come in like myself and really help turn those scores, the school district around and really save the district. So I've really worked a lot on increasing capacity, working with students, with teachers, with principals, district administrators to really increase scores and that capacity there. So one of my favorite people, John Gordon, he's just a very positive, motivational speaker. He writes a lot of books, and there's a lot of parables to the Bible as well in his books. And this is one of my favorites, and it's kind of who I am really as a leader. Don't be a networker looking to get. Instead, look to give. And I really do try to give every ounce of my being each and every day to the students that we serve. Give without keeping score, add value to people's life, lead with love, not an agenda, find ways to serve. That is my job. My job is to serve in this role, to serve our teachers, to serve our principals, to serve you, to serve our families. And that is what I want to do. Show you care. Just like I was telling you my story earlier, it is our job. I want to care. I'm very passionate about what I do, and I don't have an agenda except for to make the best of this district and really show that I care each and every day in what I do. Walk the walk and talk the talk, right? Encourage others. I'm a cheerleader. I'm a motivator. I'm an encourager. We can do this. When things get down, we can do this. How can we turn this around? We can work together as a team. Let's put our brains together. How can we problem solve? And be a connector. It's very important that I connect with you, and I want you to connect with me. It's very important that we do this together and we do this work together. So I really want to make sure that I build a really good, strong relationship with each and every one of you. So my favorite word is grit. So if you haven't heard that word, it is passion versus perseverance. I'm very passionate about what I do, but sometimes this work is very difficult, and we cannot give up. We're not going to give up on our kids because they deserve the very best. And so I'm going to work tirelessly. My job is to persevere and to make sure that we all do that. If things are in our way, what can we do? We got to keep going. We got to keep going. We cannot give up. And I am a turnaround leader. I see the best. I see the positives. We can do this. Here's some data. This is showing some really positive. Okay, let's go from there. Let's really bounce off those strengths. So I am a turnaround leader of campus, district, and state level. I put on here attendance because if kids don't come to school, we can't teach them. If they're not here, they can't learn. So it's very important to me that we really come up with some incentives and really an attendance plan to really help this situation. So I just put a few things on here that I've done in the past. Astros, I might be in the wrong part of the world for that, but this is Orbit, and it's a big deal where I'm at. So got to bring in Orbit to the school with the highest attendance, just really trying to find things that kids really like. So who doesn't like to be on the high school football field, right? So bringing kids to the field to have fun, games, snow cones, prizes. You did this. You came to school. Like, we want to celebrate those things, right? Over here, I partnered with some home builders for bikes. So look, partner with us. This is important. Let's get some bikes to really donate and give to the kids to really show the growth, progress. Oh, you came to school more this month than you did last month. So just anything that we can really do to incentivize and get kids to school. That's really a big part of some of the things that I've done. The last bullet here I put is recruitment. We want to have high quality teachers, right? We want to recruit the best of the best. We want to have the best educators and education here. We want to have a world-class education right here in Crook County, so we need the best of the best. So I have flown airplanes with banners all over surrounding areas saying, come here, don't you want to come here? This is what we can offer you in this district. So just anything, we always want to think outside the box so that we can recruit the best, right? We want the best for our kids. So I said servant leadership. So anytime I can go out to campuses, I want to be visible, I want to serve. It was National Pancake Day not very long ago, so I went out and served pancakes to our staff. Principal meetings, I always make sure we have goodies and door prizes. And again, over here, our bike giveaways, just anything I can do to show that I care. I want to show up, I want to be visible, and I want to be a part of what we're doing on the campuses. So who I am as a leader. These are just some of the qualities that I feel like I possess. I'm very transparent. I'm honest. I think that's very important. I'm approachable. My door's open. I'm out and about. I want you to come to me. I want to hear. I want you to come and talk to me. Again, visible, a collaborator. There's nothing that we cannot do if we collaborate together. We can do this. I'm a collaborator. Again, an encourager. We've got this. I want to keep motivating our teachers, our students. Communicator. I think being a very good communicator with multiple modes, whether that's sending letters home, text, email, social media, we have to be, I have to really make sure that I'm communicating. There's a little slogan that says clear is kind. When we're clear in our messaging, then that's kind, right? Everyone's on the same page. I've already talked about how I feel like I'm an instructional leader. It's very important for student success and to raise achievement and student outcomes. I hold very high expectations of everyone. I have high expectations of our kids, high expectations of our teachers, principals. I think that's very important. When you send us your children, I want to make sure we're doing the best job for them, having high expectations. I'm data-driven. Data does not lie. So we look at the data, and then we go from there. What can we do? What gaps do we need to really fill by looking at the data? So data is going to give us a clear picture of our next step. And our next step, and how are we increasing each time. I'm a risk taker, so we gotta think outside the box sometimes. We gotta take risk to do the best for our kids. And it's always good to have a growth mindset. If we have a fixed mindset, nothing's going to change. We have to have a growth mindset. We have to grow with that. So again, I'm gonna be the biggest Crook County advocate and cheerleader. That's my job, is to advocate for you, your values, what you want to see in the schools. I need to be that cheerleader and that advocator. That is my role in this particular position. So someone on the community advice actually put this quote on the advice for the next superintendent, and I love it. This is one of the people that I read and follow as well, Brene Brown. What we are ethically called to do is create a safe space in schools and classrooms where all students can walk in and for that day or hour take off their crushing weight of their armor, hang it on a rack, and open their heart to truly be seen. And I want to see your kids. I want to see what it is that they need. I want us to be able to provide what it is that they need. And so I love that quote, and someone put that on the advice, on the comments. So I wanted to actually include it on my presentation because I believe that quote as well. So thank you so much for your time of listening to my presentation.
All right. So now we have some questions that have come in. The first question is, what metrics do you plan to improve for our district, and how will you measure success?
Okay. And I think I might have been behind the speaker, and I apologize. Do you mind saying it one more time?
Yeah, you bet.
Sure.
What metrics do you plan to improve for our district,
Okay.
and how will you measure success?
How do I measure success? So that can be qualitative and quantitative, meaning how do you measure success that's being visible in classrooms? What do I see? What can I observe? How is it going? By listening to people and getting feedback. So that can be a verbal observation. So that's a metric right there. And then, of course, we have another metric is looking at assessments and looking at data and how students are really doing, and then looking at various data points. So if you have a beginning of the year assessment, then looking at, okay, this is where our starting point is at. This is where our kids are right now. So what am I going to do in the meantime? What are my action steps? What are my interventions? What am I doing in the classroom? Then I might have another assessment around Christmas time, middle of the year. So what gains did we make? So that's another metric. That's another measure of looking at assessments. So anything from feedback, observations in the classroom, walkthroughs, I am very visible. I'm always going to be talking to students. I was in classrooms today, and they were doing fractions. And so I was asking them, how are you solving that problem? They were so incredible. They were verbally telling me how they're solving that problem. So I collected data by having conversations with students, by having them tell me how they were actually solving that problem. So there's multiple ways to gather data. You said metrics, by actually being in the classroom, knowing what's going on, and actually, looking at data through assessments.
Next question is, what will you do to retain current staff and recruit new hires to grow our school district?
All right, well, to retain staff, you have to love on them, you have to tell them that they're appreciated, you have to respect the job that they do. Teaching is very difficult. Research says it's the #1 most influential impact on student outcomes is to have a high quality teacher in the classroom. That is the #1 impact that we will have on our kids, is to have a quality teacher in the classroom. So we are going to have to do a lot to recruit, but in order to retain them and to keep them, we have to make sure that we are showing them how much we appreciate them. What resources are we going to give them? What supports are we going to give them? So once they're hired, we can't just say, oh, thank you for being here. Thank you. We onboarded you. Here's your little paperwork. Here's your keys. No. We have to make sure that we are constantly giving them support, especially our new teachers. They're coming to us with just a few tools in their toolbox, right? So we have to make sure we're constantly giving professional development. It's a continuous loop of feedback. It's a continuous loop of support. It's not just one and done and I'm going to forget about you. How much can I support you throughout the day, throughout the year, so that you want to come back? If teachers feel appreciated and supported, and then research also says if they're supported with behavior in the classroom, they're going to stay because you've got their back. So it's multiple support methods. It's not just the instructional piece, but it's the behavioral piece. It's multiple things that we support them with. And as far as I'll kind of backtrack on the recruiting piece, is we can recruit, and it's not always the money. And actually, you look at research, it's not the money. It's what are you going to do once I get to your district to help me stay? I mean, a lot of districts can't pay. I've done lots of innovative things. When I flew the banner over, we had one that said starting salary, but I had another one that said creative calendar. I'm going to pay you for 187 days, but you're going to work 179 days, because every other district was working teachers a whole lot more days. So they had some days off where they could take care of what they needed to take care of, right? So you have to find out, like, what is it that teachers really want and value, and if you can do that and you can create that atmosphere and that environment, then that's what we need to do to recruit you. So you don't go to another, it's that marketing. I don't want you to go down the road, I want you to come here. So what can I do to get you to come here and to stay here? Yeah.
All right, so your next question is, how will you create stability and trust? What are the top 3 priorities in doing this?
Okay. Well, we've talked about trust. I've talked about this all day. So, I mean, #1, trust is not something that is given and it's not an overnight thing. Okay, how many of you guys have, I always use this as analogies, how many of you have little babies? You don't just trust to take your little infant and give them to some daycare worker, somebody that you don't know, right? You don't do that. I don't do, you have to trust. It takes a long time to build trust. And sometimes we don't have a long time to build trust, right? So we have to think, what are those things that are going to really matter so that you trust me? Well, if I'm honest, I'm upfront, I'm approachable, I'm transparent, I'm willing to work with you, and I've got a relationship and we continue to work on that, eventually you're going to start trusting me. If I show up and I say the things I'm going to say and I do the things that I'm going to do and I'm honest about them, then you're like, she's not that bad after all. Okay, I trust her. She said she was going to do that, she did it. So the more times I can do that, it starts to build trust. So I think it's showing up. I think it is really trying to work across lines and being a good collaborator, and being honest, open-minded. And what was the other one? You said 3 things? I'm sorry.
Just your 3 top priorities to build stability and trust. So
Okay.
I think you covered it.
Okay, did I cover it?
Yeah.
Just being honest, open-minded, approachable, transparent. Yeah, it takes time, but I hope that we can get there because we need to get there fast so that we can work together. Yeah.
All right. So your next question is, what has been your experience building teams?
Okay, just in general? All right, experience building teams. All right, well, I've built a lot of teams. Being a principal, I've built teams, of course, with my teachers. I've built a curriculum team. Sometimes I've gone into small school districts and there wasn't a curriculum department at all, and I've built those teams. So I think looking for quality people, you always want to find those quality people that are going to be hard workers. I'm very driven. I'm a hard worker. I have high expectations. So those are qualities that I look for when building a team. Are you able to collaborate? Are you able to be open-minded? Can we find common ground when there's angst and when there's some disagreement? Can we agree to disagree and walk away and still be cordial? So those are some things that I look for when I build a team, but absolutely, I've built multiple teams, campus level teams, district level teams.
Okay. Next question. If you have to choose, which are you most interested in? Parent approval, student experience, or staff satisfaction?
Oh my gosh, all of those are important. Okay, so parent approval, student experience, or staff satisfaction. Oh my gosh, that is so hard. All of those are important. I guess I always have to go student because we serve students. I don't know. I want our students to be successful in school. I want them to have the greatest experience. It's our job to make sure that they are prepared for the future, and whether that's the workforce, the military, whether that's going to an Ivy League college or a 2-year college, we have to provide experiences. We have to do what's right by kids to prepare them for their future. So if I had to pick one, I guess I'm always going to go students because that's my job, is to serve and support our kids.
All right. Next question. The State Board of Education in Oregon has suspended assessment of essential skills through 27-28 as a graduation requirement. Your thoughts?
Okay, so, my state is a little bit different on that one. So, so somebody laugh, you know where I'm from? Texas, yeah. So, that's a two-edged sword. I've heard views on both sides. I truly have, and I truly do see both sides. For me, I want to hold high expectations, and it's about the high expectations, and we have to make sure our kids are proficient. We have to make sure our kids are ready for a very rigorous world. So we think our classrooms are rigorous. Well, when they get to college, it's not going to be any easier, right? So we have to make sure that they're ready for that. So, whether that's through a proficiency test that's at a very high level, or we really revamp our grading system and make sure that we're calibrated and we're grading with fidelity, because every teacher grades different as well. So, we want to make sure that that's a streamlined system. But if I have to say my thoughts on it are we want to hold high expectations, and we want to make sure our kids are ready when they leave high school. Yeah.
Okay. Next question. We have 2 more. Your next question is, tell us about your experience as a classroom teacher, how long you were in the classroom, and what you taught.
Okay. Well, I'm an elementary gal. If you haven't noticed, I love working with little ones. So I will say first grade was probably my love and passion the most. I truly loved teaching kids how to read. I think it's the most rewarding. I say that, some people, high school's the hardest. I always say first grade's the hardest because we have to truly take a child that is a non-reader. They might not be able to read or write their name or do, any of those things, to really being a proficient reader. And if we do not teach them how to read by the end of first grade, all we're doing is putting a Band-Aid, another Band-Aid, another Band-Aid, and then it's triage. Because we're not going to send a kid to middle school and high school that struggling to read and expect a middle school or high school teacher to know how to teach a child how to read, right? Because that's a different skill set that they've been charged to do. So I always that's my passion. I just think it's very important that our first graders leave first grade learning and knowing how to read so that they're successful with the rest of their school career. So so I taught, 6 years, 7 years before I went into being an instructional coach and a specialist and curriculum coordinator, and kind of went up that route, and then of course assistant principal and principal in other district roles. But I would go back and teach tomorrow. It's my favorite thing in the world. I'm a teacher at heart. When I go around, I supervise principals now, and when I go into a classroom that's maybe a little chaotic or something, I find myself sometimes just not taking over rudely, but taking over and just kind of doing a chant or a song to try to get kids back corralled. I find that fun. I love teaching. It's my passion. So sometimes I'll just sit on the carpet and start reading a book or teaching some kids to read. So again, I'm a teacher at heart, so absolutely.
Okay, and your final question is, how do you handle conflict?
Well, when you handle conflict, you have to really listen, number one. You seek first to understand. That's Stephen Covey's work. Seek first to understand. I need to know where you're coming from. I need to be able to really listen and really listen. And I need to understand. I need to have backstory. I need to really be able to collaborate. And I think that, conflict's just a part of life, but we also need to kind of see each other's viewpoints and perspectives. So I think it's me listening to you, and then you listening to me, and then us trying to find common ground. Someone put on the advice that the district has, that they really would like for somebody to be able to find common ground, to be able to see the greatness and the flaws. That really resonated with me, because there's always greatness and there's always flaws, right? It doesn't matter the district you go to, it doesn't matter the state that you're in, but I think it's what makes us the most powerful together is when we listen to each other and we try to find some common ground that can work for both of us and the community.
A hand, thank her.
Thank you very much.
She came, oh, that's fine. Yeah, I'll take that. She came all the way from Texas to be with us, and has also put in a lot of emotional energy to come and represent her best self here for you all. So at this time, we're just going to release just some informal visiting with either or candidate, both, or we're going to have them just kind of hang out in different parts of the gym, and we would like you to. It hit me. If there are, again, any feedback on the card or the electronic feedback, is the board would love to hear that. The board is really interested in your thoughts on our candidates. So that is what we'll do, and we'll just kind of mingle, and no later than 6 o'clock, but we'll just leave that time for you. If there's a question that you have that you want to individually ask one or both of the candidates, this will be your opportunity to do that. So thank you very much for coming out. Yes. Time frame for this. The board will be in executive session tonight, starting at 6 till 7:30. So we'd like you to get done by 7:30 tonight, if possible, if you want them to see that tonight. Okay, and so that's the time frame on the feedback. And also cards. If you want to do this old school way, we'll take it. All right. So thank you very much.